Welcome to another episode of the Philosophy of Chillin. I'm your host, Dunlap the Connect. And as you can see, not only are we in a new environment, but there's also a new person sitting right next to me. So before we get into the venue, I'm going to pass it off to my guests so that they can go ahead and introduce themselves.
Hola, ma'am. No, I don't speak English. But
Hey.
my name, I'm Thayu Luhamer, after the honorable ancestor Fanny Luhamer, and yeah, I'm here to be on the show and yap and talk and yeah.
Well, I don't know about y'all, and y'all are gonna know more about him by the end of this. But I'm excited for this conversation. I met this individual. Dang, it's more than 4 years now.
Gotta be.
Yeah, and they have been so instrumental in an aspect of building community that kind of kickstarted, at least for me, at the place that we met, which was Howard University. We both went to school and graduated.
hmm
And graduated.
Get that paper.
You feel me?
Get that paper. You can't get what your code. If you go for something, get it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Facts. Always finish. So we met there, and building community didn't necessarily start there for us, but that's how we connected. And that's honestly what's been keeping our connection so strong over these years. At least what I've been recognizing is because of that passion to continuously place seeds in areas and different demographics and communities where there needs to be kind of a space to do so. So with that being said, the theme that I wanted to go through with you today is building community.
Okay, I like this thing.
Yeah.
I'm a builder for real, so I went to school for architecture.
Like
That's what I do. I went to school for architecture, and yeah, and even though architecture is about like the buildings and stuff, people think, but really to me, it's just like about creating and making spaces where people can do the wide variety of things that people do. Yeah.
And literally, I felt like that was the only thing that kind of fit the different silos of like technicalities and skill sets that you actually have in relation to your different passions. So I was like, well, shoot, let's get into it. So I wanted to ask you the first question, at least. What were some of your early influences in not just discovering yourself, but how you wanted to help everybody else?
Um, Early influences have to be like my family and the way in which I was raised. I have like a very strong family network, very strong community. As it comes to that, like we've always helped each other. We've always looked out for each other. My mom, in particular, like her space in her house, at sometimes was a safety net for other family members, and sometimes it was us who needed the safety net. And when I was younger and things of the sort, so just seeing how that works and like growing up in an environment like that made me used to like seeing like true deep community connections and familiar connections specifically. But like we call people family who's not even blood. So
Yeah,
like,
facts. That's
so
good.
so it's more than just like this person and I share blood. Like we are a family because we choose to be. So that was 100% a early connection, an early
That's good. That's good.
a very early steering force. I was always like I was like never confused or lied to about the systems in the world in which we live in and the realities of it. Like as a child, my mom made sure we're taught and learned Black history and studied Black history outside of schools, and we were made sure to be like very proud of who we were and very confident in ourselves. And that is honestly what set me on the path towards not only being able to accomplish my dreams and go to a place like Howard to get an architecture degree, but also be confident enough to while I'm there push for um, doing the type of architecture and building the type of world that I wish to see and designing the type of world to be built that I wish to see, and not necessarily just doing what's most popular and it's the most fancy or glossy building, but being able to create spaces and push towards the creation of spaces that make us well as whole-rounded beings.
I love that. And we're gonna get more into that because there's different layers and levels of details that you put into your planning schematics and just your focus on what type of materials you utilize as well, which I think is honestly refreshing because there's so many resources out there for us to utilize outside of what's been manufactured and commercialized.
100%.
So I'm excited.
I had a thought earlier, and I was thinking about this, and I was like, back in the day when people grew food, they didn't go to Home Depot. Wasn't nobody going to Home Depot to buy soil to grow their collard greens. They was getting the soil from the river, going down and getting the good earth from the forest and cultivating their lands. Well, they wasn't just like going to Home Depot, but nowadays, if you want to start a garden, it's gonna cost you like $250 at the least.
Yeah.
To go to Home Depot and get the materials just to
That's
get the
dope.
dirt.
Yeah.
And it's like just to get the dirt.
Yeah.
Yo, I
It's
was thinking about
crazy
that because
work.
they really manufacture and make these things, but the dirt and the soils they give aren't even fully at the full health of what we would want for our own soils and for ourselves, in my opinion.
Yeah. I'm so glad you said that because the next question I wanted to ask you was kind of geared towards your research level. For the things that you do in regards to making sure that one, you're aware of the difference between the elements that you utilize in your constructional building versus just the research that you do in regards to your passion projects and your own ambitions and visions. What are some of the things that you look for in trying to make sure that you're aligning yourself appropriately to those right resources?
I would say the elders into mentors, right? It's very rare that I'll work on something or do something in full and never pass it to somebody older and be like, look at this and tell me what you think. Somebody more experienced and more skilled.
Yeah.
I'm very young, so I think having not only having people to rely and depend on in that way, but going out and searching for those people as well is something I'm actively and currently doing. For especially when it comes to like natural construction and building from the earth, that's something that like is a serious skill set that like I'm still working and building on with others and learning with others. And yeah, something I'm looking for a mentor in also, because somebody who's done like in Ifa tradition, there's this entire, or in Yoruba cosmology, this entire body of knowledge in which they call awo. And awo is like this, it's a type of knowledge that you can only receive by doing something. Like I don't know it's hard to explain like for the tea, right? Awo would be like the understanding of like if you steep tea with a bag versus without a bag and let the herbs be loose, right? And they say that like Awo is essentially like you can only know it through experience. It's an experiential knowledge. In the moment in which somebody's able to understand it without the actual experience, then it ceases to be Awo. Right. So it's a very special type of knowledge that can't be like done without actually doing the thing, right? So I feel like master builders or people who are more skilled or people who have like years and years more of experience, whatever field that it is that I'm doing, that other people are doing, they have a lot of awo, right? They have a lot of experiential knowledge, and that's something that I look for when I do my projects as well.
Yeah, I try to do the same thing, but I know for myself, there's always like a trust level that I have to overcome in order to do that. But before I ask that question, I wanted to remind the people, or at least just inform them appropriately of all the things that you actually do.
Okay.
Because we're going
the list
into
is long. The list is long.
let me know so I can appropriately tell the people the list of things that you are currently active in and doing.
Okay.
As he's calculating it in his head, like
it's not 3 things. It's not 6. It's more.
Exactly.
So I'm a community organizer here on the ground in Atlanta. I do work with communities specifically. I'm searching, or not just searching, but like I'm venturing into the community architecture space. So as somebody with an architecture degree and with that experience, my goal currently is in my practice currently is to design spaces for communities. Now, as of being a community architect, I'm also a land healer on the other side because I understand that the way in which we develop lands and the way in which we cultivate lands should not be separate. Like the idea of development and cultivation being two separate things, it's kind of like a live English, and really they are the same thing. It's human hands pushing land forward, and right, so we should be doing it well. So we should be doing it well.
Oh, that was good.
So I'm also a land healer as well. So I'm a community architect, a community organizer, and a land healer. I work directly with lands to bring them into full health. And that goes from everything to land healing can go from invasive species removal to replanting native species to getting into the soil and removing toxins out of the soil with different soil remediation processes to catch water catchment and to like stopping flooding on the street. Like if your street flood, there's something wrong with the land. Somebody has designed this poorly, and it can be fixed, and it can be better. The street can stop flooding, right? And it can be done in a way in which the entire community benefits, not only from being able to drive on the road, but also from whatever water feature is made from that extra water. Like that could be like a fountain. Like
we need you. We need you.
So that's one line of work. That's 3 lines of work, I guess. That's like the 3 big overarching umbrellas that all intersect. And let me say, like, within myself, I've worked very hard to integrate all of my works. Some people compartmentalize to be able to function in different ways and forms. I've worked to integrate very heavily across the board, so that they all go together very well. So different projects I'm working on include soil remediation and land healing for a few different gardens, things of the sort. Just working on creating a process to get the toxins that railroads have sent across South Atlanta and the arsenic and the cadmium and the lead that is like in our soils that stop us from being able to grow that we don't even know that are affecting our health, getting those out of the soil. That's one project. Another one is the Black Land Bus, which is like a very large project. Essentially, well, I'm actually gonna come back to the Black Land Bus. I could walk a stair. I could walk a stair, right? So there's the community-led design against Cop City. That was a major. So Cop City was an attack on the Black community here in Atlanta, and it was essentially destroyed. The Atlanta Police Department decided to destroy 300 acres of a public park to build a military police complex in the middle of a Black neighborhood on the southeast side of Atlanta. So essentially, as an architect, I went on the ground and asked people, like, if you had 300 acres and $100 million, what would you like to build? What would it be that you would want to create and construct and help your community with? Like, what would you do with this land and with this money if it was yours? And literally went through the entire design process, the decolonial architecture process that ended up with them saying that they wanted to build a community kitchen. And then I made we worked together to design it. And in the design process, it became very clear that this was only going to be built if we built it ourselves. So that led me to natural construction and natural materials and rebuilding with the clay beneath our feet, because we here in Atlanta have the same red clay in our soil that Ghana has in their soil. The same ancient mountain range has deposited the same red clays in both spaces. So that's really beautiful. And the kitchen is designed to be like built by the community and used by the community and maintained by the community, more than just like a building that we like walk into, but like a building that like we're actually actively upkeeping and designing and expressing the culture of the people who live there. So that was a pretty big project that is like currently in like split into 2 different things. One is a book that's being published, Building Kujichagulia. Building Kujichagulia, and Kujichagulia is the right of a people is to speak for ourselves, choose for ourselves, create for ourselves, and name ourselves. It's a human right. Kujichagulia. Right? It's a human right, but we don't have it here on these lands. We don't have control over our lands. We don't have the right to choose and create for our own communities. Not unless you got enough dollars, and most people with dollars is not in our communities, right? That's not our choice. We don't actually we didn't make that choice.
Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation.
We can dive into it. So it's a book. So the book teaches you how to design with communities, how to heal the lands of Atlanta, how to build with the earth, and then part 4 of the book is the actual blueprints. So like it's kind of like showing you how to do a thing. Then at the end, it's like, oh, this is what the community in Southeast Atlanta.
And are you involved in creating the blueprints as well too?
Oh, so they're made. They're done. Now it's going into the book to be released to the public currently.
Okay.
So that's the current process of that on that side of getting that out, and then we're working on the Black Land Bus also, which is like a literal school bus. Just got a little image of it right now. Put it up. The Black Land Bus. It's really pretty, if you ask me. It's a school bus that we're like, it's a handicap accessible bus that is being turned currently into a mobile workshop space, and like a living space, a two for one self-sustainable living space with a mobile workshop space where we can go to different Black farms and indigenous land projects and build for the farmers. Build things like greenhouses. If a farmer needs a greenhouse, build a clay oven, build water catchment infrastructure into the land. So it's like we were practicing building small things like a little greenhouse before we build an entire kitchen, right? So it's a tool that's going to allow us to not only improve the infrastructure of our farms, so our communities can be more well fed and our farmers can be more resilient as climate change comes, but also eventually one day build a kitchen and make that a reality here in Southeast Atlanta. So that's a really, really big project. And you're talking about building community. And like every single Friday, we get together and we work on the bus together. We're all learning the skills of building as we build the bus and construct the bus, right? And the goal is for once the bus is built up to go to a farm. And we're all going to the farm and with the local community around the farm, learning the skills and building. And like it's creating builders is what we're doing right now. Where we're getting people the skills to be able to build for ourselves for real. So that's another project. Should I go on? Should I go on? Because I didn't even get into the spiritual stuff at all, or the herbal or the healing thing.
That's, you know what? That's crazy because you're reading my mind, and it's wild because I wanted to ask kind of like a two-part question on how it ties into your spiritual aspects and work that you do as well when it comes to that area. Because a big part of building community is trusting who you're building with. And at the end of the day, at least for me, one of the things that I'm actively working through is trying to understand how I can trust you. You know what I'm saying? And trust the vision that I've been given and helping to curate it seamlessly in a way, if that makes sense. So for you and your experience and your, goals that you have and who you're continuing those achievements with, how have you been able to kind of navigate yourself appropriately to align yourself with the right individuals or clients, being within these different spaces?
It's not always easy. Sometimes you work with somebody and like this was a poor experience and I'm not doing that again, right? And sometimes you work with somebody like I would love to work with y'all again, or sometimes you learn as you go. And it's interesting you say like trusting, because like as people come out to build the bus and stuff, it's like I might put more care into painting this thing than somebody else puts into. But somebody else wants to learn how to paint this thing, so I'm gonna let them paint this thing. But will that at the end, is it gonna I measure in my mind if it's gonna be a thing in the end that is gonna be a catastrophe if they paint the thing wrong, or if it's gonna be perfectly fine if they paint it and leave some spots undone that need to like be touched up later or something of the sort. So I feel like there's both like with trust, like what level of risk and how much are you putting into something, to be able to know, and then also the more you know somebody and with time and the relationship building also gives you and creates a lot more trust in the process as well. I'm a very trusting person. I've been told I'm too trusting at times, but I just believe in the good of people, and honestly, God put out good energy. And when people come and they don't have that good energy or don't have or are moving in ways that I don't like, I remove them from my space very swiftly. It's some people don't usually get like 4 or 5 chances with me. It's like a thing in which if it's not working, it's not working. You can go be not working somewhere else. Like
Yeah,
you
that's
don't have to
real
be not
too.
working. It don't have to not work right here because that's like that's a serious thing, especially when we talk about like working with people's land. The amount of trust that people have to give to me for me to be able to work somebody's land and help tell them like I'm gonna help bring your land in like fuller health and better health, and for them to not only learn in the process alongside me as they probably know their land better than I know their land, right? But then it's a lot of trust in that too. So I would say like I receive a lot of trust from people as well. What about yourself? Do you like how do you navigate like how much you are able to give to how much of your own projects or things that you're working on are you able to like endow others with or trust people with, or yeah, how do you navigate that?
Honestly, I'm still navigating it because I do have a high level of detail that I try to pay attention to, but I also recognize that the things that I'm trying to do at the pace that I'm trying to do them everybody is not always able to keep up with that. So it's been a lot of trial and error because I've worked with different teams, I've worked with different people, and I go in it the same way every single time. Hey, if you're asking me to do this, or if you're asking me to be a part of this team or this crew, this is what I can offer you. This is how I can contribute. And essentially, what that winds up being is the fact of, okay, one, this is their vision. This is how it happens in reality. And in that reality, it becomes evident, is this going to work out? Is the troubleshooting and the communication effective enough to where we can create solutions and move past it? But at that point, if, especially because of the different people that I work with, they wear their hearts on their sleeves. So if you're not able, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you're not able to, have a discussion even through the bad moments, and, even for myself, sometimes I have to isolate and just be like, look, but I know in my mind, I'm coming back to have this conversation. Like, we're not done just because I had to take a break.
Okay.
So it's just being more aware of those triggers for myself that lets me know, can I continue this with somebody else? Can I not? If not, then let's, like you said, take a step back. And that happens honestly in two different ways for me. Like, it happens naturally, and then it happens based on my own actions. Naturally, it's like God would literally be like, yeah, I know you have the intention to help out and do this and do that, but I'm gonna bring something else to have your attention get pulled away from that. So naturally, you're just not gonna be around those individuals anymore because it's not gonna work out over there.
Trusting the path is very serious.
You know what I'm saying?
Trusting the path is a real thing.
And that's why I wanted to talk to you about the spirituality aspects and the research you've been doing in that area as well too. Because when things like that would happen to me, in my mind, I'm like, yo, I'm ready to have this conversation. I understand we might not be seeing eye to eye, but at the end of the day, like, we can just talk it out and we can figure a solution so we can get to the actual vision of what we're here to do. Like, and that's what I care about the most, because I may not fuck with you on like a surface level, but if God is telling me, hey, be there, be present for them, help them out, I don't care how I'm feeling. I'll be mad as hell, cussing all the way over there, be like, dang, God told me da-da-da-da-da.
You said I gotta do this. Like, I might be scared. I might be scared, but I'm gonna do it.
You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna show up and I'm gonna be there and be present as best I can. And then there's the other aspect where I get in my own head and I might respond too quickly to something. And I might be like, okay, well, this person didn't take it the right way because of how it happened and everything like that. So if this just naturally not gonna work out, then that's fine. Like, they might stop talking to me. I might just be on my own stuff and just forget about the conversation. Different things. But I say that to say I'm trying to get better in just being able to recognize when those moments are happening so that I can just vocalize better on my end and have that accountability to where it's like, hey, we can work this out as long as we have mutual communication and respect of that. So
I understand that I try to be very communicative. Like, I try to do my best to communicate with people, and especially through conflict.
Oh yeah, because I'm not gonna lie, it's been a couple of people where it's like the conflict, once it hits that first time, I feel like it's like a test. How dedicated are you to really see what you started to the finish? So if there's an initial conflict, if you can't work through it, then that vision has to pivot. You know what I'm saying? So that kind of leads me to my next question. What first triggered you to be interested in bettering yourself on a spiritual level? And because of that, what was one of your entry level projects or passions that kind of led you to the research and understanding that you have now and what you do in that area?
That's a great question. I love that question.
Thank you.
Because it takes me back. It makes me like go back. I think that my family is extremely spiritually powerful, and powerful more than just spiritually.
I love
be careful,
that.
y'all.
Hey, I'm trying to.
You gotta be careful. So I think that like this world we exist in, when you have I'm gonna just say your third eye open for lack of a better word. For English does not always do the best. But when you have your third eye open, you see this world for what it is. There's oftentimes a lot of just craziness and just like things that like are just blatantly wrong. And I guess as I was leaving my adolescent years and coming into my grown years, aka 18, which is still a child, but
Yeah,
as I was moving into that,
we digress.
yeah, I started to like see and understand, especially seeing the way some things that some people think. And it's like what in you is making your brain think that, and then beyond the ways in which people think, the way people act and move and treat each other. This country is sometimes a very wicked and vile place. So from there, I started to understand where just like paths were being made forward, and I chose the paths that took me towards like a deeper understanding and just deeper understandings. Honestly, the land, it was probably like one of the first things that like called me, and was like, this is a space in which you're able to like be free and run wild, and this you play with the spirits and let your spirit fly free and discover the I want to say like I keep using the word spirit, but that's because English is not the best language. But like the spirits of plants themselves, like each plant each has its own energy, its own essence, and being able to like interact and understand that. Nature was the first place for me, for sure. And then also my own within my body, within myself, growing out my hair was a big thing too. As I started to first grow out my hair, it was a big change and a big step into like me choosing my own direction, my own path, and that not being linked to what other path others thought I should be on or were pushing me towards. So that was a big thing as well. And then when I was around like 20, 21, there was this one course I took, not at Howard, but through organizing and work. And organizing work actually got me deeply into like ancestral veneration, and like was a push towards like an understanding, knowing, and venerating my own ancestors, which Cosmologies of Slave Revolts was the name of the course by on Instagram. I believe the name is
That
Kel
sounds
Brassica.
good.
It was great. It was about the cosmology, which is like astrology is a type of cosmology. Cosmologies are like ways in which people across the entire world look into the cosmos, look into the stars, and understand what's happening in the celestial bodies. So it was like the cosmologies of slave revolts. So each week or each class, we went through different revolts on this half of the world and understood the cosmology behind them. And often this sent us back to Africa. With often the connections were very deep back to Africa, and the way in which the class was taught. It was like a spiritual history class aligned with the moon. And it was just like a very deep and enriching process that got me myself into the practice of being aligned with the moon cycle. First and foremost, it's like a very like big, obvious, bright thing to follow, right? It literally lights up the night sky, not figuratively. So that was a big thing. That class pushed me forward in some major ways with like some deep ancestral understandings and understanding that like if we are to get free, it's going to be a spiritual thing. It's not going to be a scientific thing, in my opinion. Everybody can have different opinions, but I don't believe it's going to be like a scientific thing. I think it's going to be a spiritual thing, because looking back at the past revolutions and revolts and the times in which we were able to get free, like everybody says the Haitian Revolution. I'm going to say the Haitian Revolution too, because they are still fighting that battle and still maintaining their freedom to this day. That was sparked with rituals and with deep spiritual practices, and that has flourished enough and flowered and blossomed and sown seeds and flowered and blossomed and sown seeds and flowered and blossomed, sown seeds again, enough for us to still experience and understand that this is still going on here in the 21st century. Here, over like 400 years later, they are still free. They are still having their own nation state, and they are still working to maintain their freedom. It's not, so it's
And it's been a long battle.
100%. That was what got me. Like the first time that course, Cosmology of Slave Revolts, was one of the things that got me a very clear path forward into my own spiritual work.
I love that. So, what have you discovered through that work not necessarily on, what have you discovered through that work that has shown you aspects of yourself that you have had to develop too? And how have you been able to help put that growth into the communities you're actively building?
I feel like it showed me, or like my spiritual work has shown me my own personal gifts and helped me understand that everybody has gifts. Yeah. Everybody has gifts. Every single individual, everybody who was born was given a gift and a purpose and a reason to be here and something that they're very good at and something that they're very adept for and something that they can do. And just like everybody was given a gift. And it's my understanding now that you either like rise to your gift or your gift becomes a curse essentially. Like if you don't meet your if you don't appreciate the gift,
that's a whole nother conversation.
The space that the gift is placed, if you throw away the gift, then that space will be filled with a curse. Essentially, is my understanding.
That's dangerous language right there.
You want to keep the gift.
They're not ready for that conversation.
You want to keep the gift. You want to push it forward. So for me, understanding my gifts, I have very good eyes. I have a very extreme vision. I can bring things into this. I can, from just some sight and alone, I can bring things into reality. I see it first in my mind, and then I can bring it into this world. So yeah, that's like a major gift for me. So I guess in that work, especially with the land, it has allowed me to. I now hear the land, and the land like I can like hear and understand and feel the land, and because like the sight is kind of like a future thing, and sometimes a past thing too. It's like kind of moving through time.
I can understand that.
Yeah, versus like the feeling and when the land is like speaking. I'll say speaking for English like a better word. It's when the land is like speaking and like expressing itself or like telling something to me and to others. I'm able to like hear very well, and I've tuned my ears to that very well. So like now when I'm in community doing work such as like a sunflower planting ritual to help remediate the soils or just different things, doing different works, help just the basics like starting a garden and growing food and figuring out where is the proper spot that this land wants this garden to be, or this land wants the tree to be planted, or where does the land not want the tree to be planted, right? I've been able to like open up and share that. This summer I actually did like over a dozen tree plantings with high schoolers. I was taking high schoolers through a program to different spots throughout Atlanta. We were planting fruit trees, and in that we did a ritual in which once we like laid the land out and chose a spot, we stopped for like a minute and just listened to the land and asked the land, can we
have permission? You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
That's and real. Most of the time it was like, yeah, this is a good spot, but sometimes like there'd be like suddenly like one time there was a chihuahua next door that just in our 60 seconds of silence just started to bark. Like, the chihuahua could not go off, and then that's why we could not plant the tree.
Yeah.
It was sad. It was sad.
That's real.
So I feel like I not only by sharing my gift give people that sight into what abilities and things I have, but also allow for others to do so as well. Especially if gifts are complementary or if things that somebody else is doing are or if I can see somebody else's gift. And especially when you build a relationship with somebody and as time goes on you get to see that more and more. And I do my best to, in my community work, foster that in others as well. Give others the opportunities to express their gifts and find the spaces and places that they could shine in potentially if they choose to. That's how I would say. So it's both about like knowing self and sharing self like fully, but then also being able to like see and be attentive towards others just so they can know and share themselves fully as well.
That's good. Okay, I got 2 more questions, and then I'm gonna just pass it off to you.
Okay.
And you can take over with being kind of like the host, even though you've been co-hosting this whole time.
No, yeah.
With that being said, in regards to one, how do I want to phrase this question? So, as you have been growing into knowing yourself and the gifts that you contribute, what have you had to recognize is your process of being okay with welcoming the outside perspectives of who you are as a person? Because like you were saying, you have to be open to letting your spirit free and walking in that confidently. But not but and when you do that, that also welcomes other individuals as well to comment or, give their input on who you may be as a person and what they see versus their understanding and everything like that. So how have you been able to kind of balance those encounters or even just that knowledge of understanding that as you've been walking confidently in who you are?
Yeah, I would say like that was a battle that I had to do a long time ago. As I've always been like a very tall, thin person, a very gorgeous person. When I started growing out my hair was something. But like the point is, like everywhere I went, from a very young age, I've always been stared at and looked at, like wildly by everybody. Like people like, oh my God, you're so tall now. But like people have always been staring at me.
Yeah.
The eyes have always been on me.
I feel that.
Yeah, at one point that was something that I felt like was a cage that restricted me from being.
I feel that too.
But at some point, I believe it was around when I started to decide like to grow out my hair and just assert myself in this world in that way, in that first way, right? That for me shifted things, and like people could stare, people can look. Like now the things which I don't feel so claustrophobic or so like bound by other people's looks, their eyes, their stares, or even their perceptions. Yet I still do listen. I still definitely take time to hear, especially if you hear that something that you're doing is perceived by multiple people the same way. Then often I don't let the perceptions change who I am. Right? I'm gonna keep being. But you gotta hear you. But at least for perceptions of people who I respect and trust and love, I listen to them, I understand them, and I sometimes, not me sometimes, often it's a source of reflection for me. What others are saying can be a source of reflection, and it can be affirmation for as well. When people give me like great compliments and affirm me, I try to do the same for others. And as I see them moving and as I see them walking, I'd be like, when you up somebody for the good shit they do, and it's like, give them the ups, do that shit. Yeah,
that's facts. I love that. Okay, one last question, then I'll pass it off to you. In regards, and this is just, I've been just wanting to ask just based off your profession in general. So it's kind of like left field, but it's still on topic. In regards to like some of the historical planting actions that are found in Georgia, specifically regarding how like on like the south side they plant more female trees that produce like more counts of pollen, and in like
trees,
in the north they have more so a variety or a kind of more even mix between the two species to where it's kind of catching the pollen more. You don't see it as prominently on the other, really all the allergies that we experience within the Black communities because of these trees and how they've been planted
Not
previously.
Even the trees, but just the way in which our environment is treated is making us react to our environment. Yeah.
Facts. So with that being said, my question is basically, what is your vision through the work that you do on improving that and trying to, increase or not necessarily increase, but counteract those previous actions in this present reality?
Yeah, I like that question. I think that it also calls for a knowing of history that like 200 and what's the year is it? It is 2025. So 204 years ago, this land was stolen. This land was abundant forest and free land up until 204 years ago. And that was when indigenous people, native peoples were kicked off the land. And even before then, we can go back because the history of the land don't start when it was stolen. This land has been like abundant for a very long time, where people were able to move across it freely for a very long time and care for it for a very long time. People built mounds on this land. People lived by the creeks and the waters, and on this land, this was a space in which like there were not borders that stopped people from moving from one place to another, but there were instead just different communities kind of patched work together with trade networks that spanned all across the entire continent. And the continent does not just mean to California. I'm talking down through Mexico, right? And from there was a point in time in which people started to run onto this land. There started to be people who were not just like traveling freely, but running onto this land. And as they were running onto this land, they came with stories of other people who not only owned people, but also owned land. That there was people who were running and escaping and coming to freedom on these lands. And here, where we are now, what we call Atlanta, was Muskogee land in the 1800s, because the different nations and names changed throughout the millennia, of course. But essentially, the people who lived here were free people. It was not only the Muskogee Indians, but also was Guale and Shawnee and Cherokee and a million other types of indigenous peoples who were running from the north specifically, away from English plantation society, were coming down here to create what they called coalescent societies, as well as Africans. Africans were freeing themselves and self-liberating off of plantations consistently. And it was known that if you could get south of the Savannah River, you'd be free. Because they were sending slave catchers down south of the Savannah River. It was focusing on the part that we would call the Carolinas today, the Carolinas colony at this time, right? So these societies and peoples were like building and growing and like living here for over a centuries, right? Until 204 years ago, in which this land was stolen and a giant war was waged to kick everybody off of the land. And essentially the entire everything, everywhere we are, all of it here. There's not a single, if you look out, Atlanta is a forest, yes, but there's not a single tree that you will find over 250 years old. You will not find a tree more than 250 years old.
That's good though, because that's facts.
They cut down every single tree to import back to their motherland, England. But our forest is supposed to be like 800-year-old trees, and we don't have any tree. They call an 80-year-old tree. They call it like a mature legacy tree, yada yada yada. I think trees are however many years they are, divided by 8. Or no, divided by 10, and that's how old they are. So like a 10-year-old tree is like a 1-year-old tree, like a little baby, like just starting to walk for real. And then a 80-year-old tree is like 8 years old, versus a 200-year tree is like 200 years old, and a 500-year-old tree is like 50 years old, right? Like we are supposed to live into our like 80s, 70s, 90s, and the trees are supposed to live until the 700s, 800s, 900s. You don't find no trees around here that's more than 200 years old. So then they made plantations, enslaved us, made plantations, and that really stripped and hurt our lands a lot. It really brought our land, like the rich land got brought down to the clay. This Georgia red clay is like what was under all that really rich, fertile, dark, black earth. Now we just got red clay. And then they brought railroads, and the railroads are poisoning our lands and putting arsenic and cadmium and creosote. And the way in which they build is putting lead in the land, and the way in which they, oh my God, the most blown up, craziest thing to me. I'm sorry. If I could fix, because there are questions about the future. We get into the future because we get into the present.
Don't say sorry. I hate that word.
Hurt. Why are we pooping in water? I'm so sorry. Why are we pooping in water? I gotta say this. The brown goes in the brown. You're supposed to poop into the earth. It's basic color theory. The brown and the brown. The brown does not go in the blue. That's why the River Thames is so dirty and all them people got cholera. And they went across the world, and now we're all pooping in water. And now all of our waters are poisoned. Like, why are we pooping? And we should not be pooping. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make very basic sense for like a 3-year-old who knows colors. Like, it's a very basic concept. But the way in which they've built has decimated our lands. on multiple accounts. And for me, as we move into the future, not only knowing the history and these decimations and how they've happened, not only for the land but the peoples of the land, because really the two are not unlinked. It's like if you're saying like, oh, I want to fix this land, but not worried about the animals on it, the deer or the birds or the or the, like this the everything comes together to make it fully healthy, because you can't just grow an apple tree and be like, perfect, I did the thing. No, but the apples need to be eaten by deer, so the deer can go and poop the seed somewhere else and grow more apple trees, right? If the apple tree is the thing that's helping the land, then the deer are going to be a vehicle for that to move back and forth. So moving to the future, I think that knowing the history and knowing it very well is going to be something, and knowing the specific history of your specific piece of land or wherever it is your feet are, like wherever your feet touch the earth, knowing that history very well. Like you can look up and know the name of the plantation owners who were on wherever you are, because everything around us was once a plantation, and probably still is. And you can.
We ain't got time for that one.
That's gonna go real far. You can know the people who was enslaved there, who was freed there to some degree. You can. This is things to know. And if you, as you know the history of the land, you can start to fix and remediate these things one at a time. If you know that there was a history of like plantation work, that for Cop City, for example, which is like really the space in which I did some very deep research in history and very deep like planning with the community for the future, and not only what building they want, but like their entire vision for the future, right? We know the land has been touched by railroads. We know it was once a plantation. From a plantation, it was turned into a prison farm, right? Which is just another name for plantation.
Yeah.
And the prison farm had a bunch of chemicals. They had like livestock and cows, and then they was like the cows was dying from disease because the place was so dirty. So they started pouring chemicals in the cows, which was killing the prisoners, which was also poisoning the land and making the farm untenable, right? So we know that history to be able to know what's in the soil and know what's on the land, even if like the land currently has been cut down to build Cop City. So now we're working from like concrete and grass, but in some parts of the land are still forested. Under those trees, know that in the roots and what they're tapping into, what they're touching, is the bones of those cows that have been poisoned so much they like died, like they were just like buried on the land. Outright. Shoot, the bones of our ancestors.
I was just about to say that. They was buried with them.
There was no difference.
Oh, Jesus.
Not at all.
We ain't got time for that conversation.
They definitely upset a lot of ancestors and people's bodies in the building of Cop City when they came through and they clear cut the entire forest 2 years ago.
Yeah, I figured they would do
definitely were bodies in that, and they definitely hit that. There's no doubt about it. So knowing that history, respecting the spirits of the land is extremely important, because it's not just about what poison turned the land, but also like the spirits of the land and respecting that as well. And also like if this land has been a forest for the past 30 years, as Cop City was a forest for like 30 years from the prison farm closed all the way until 2 years ago, when they cut down the forest, that's 30 years in which the earth has been regrowing, regenerating itself, and giving back to the earth. So, and giving back to itself, right? The leaves are falling, and that's making good soil. It's like now that clay layer that we talked about, we back to, got a little bit of leaf on top of it, at least. Like it's not as deep as it used to be, but it's starting to get there in the forest, and the world and the earth knows how to heal itself. So really working to be in sync with the seasons is another big thing. Once you know the history of the land and know what things you might be looking to work with, you getting in sync very deeply with the seasons and doing your work seasonally, because you can try to plant in the middle of winter and see what happens, and you can cut down trees in springtime or see what happens, but you're going to be in the best sync and moving the most like symbiosis with the entire planet if you make trees fall in the fall and you plant things in the spring, right? Because those are the proper times to do those things. And like moving forward from there, I think I know the vision for the Cop City, for what's currently Cop City, from the community in Southeast Atlanta. They want to build an eco village there where they have some housing for some unhoused people and for community members to be able to learn how to like live fully in sync with the land and start to heal the 300 acres back to full health, to be able to grow their own food, create like native fruit trees and things like that inside the forest. And then from there and from the gardens that they create, then comes the community kitchen, which is the building that they designed, where we're not only giving out fresh food or fresh hot produce to community, or fresh produce, but also cooking the food to make it fresh hot food and cook plates for community members and things of the sort. That's their vision for the future, in which they want to like have space and time to be able to like be fully on the land and rejuvenate it and become reacclimated, learn with it, and not just like learn with it for themselves, but also spread that knowledge and spread the abundance from the forest. You know, cook the food and give it to grandma up the street. She wants some food, and shoot, grandma up the street can come help cook and teach some cooking classes.
I was just about to say,
somebody gotta learn those recipes.
We got a kitchen for you.
Somebody has to learn those recipes.
That's real though.
Yeah. So that's how I see the future. I think it's extremely community controlled. Like, it's not just up to an individual to figure out, okay, this is what we all gotta do, but we all gotta come together and figure out what it is we gotta do, and we have to make sure what it is that we do is aligned with the earth as well.
I like that. Education, shining a light on the darkness of history, and trying to emphasize the aspects to where we can heal together and with the earth symbiotically. I don't know if that was the right word, but shit, fuck it.
It's understood. It's fully and entirely understood.
I like it, and I'm here for it. So I'm excited to see how this all progresses, especially with my involvement, because I do want to get educated to these degrees as well too. Especially for some of the work that I want to do. Because I do want to be a part of building infrastructures, but I do believe that infrastructures do need to match the environment and the demographics that they're surrounding, and be present to address their needs. So
I support that fully.
Well, shoot, we got more work to do. Hey, talking about. So with that being said, we're getting to the last couple minutes of the episode, and as y'all know, we could sit here all day and have this conversation and get into so many other different aspects and conversations, but y'all got to go. So before y'all leave, and before we get up out of here ourselves, are there any questions that you would like to ask me, whether pertaining to the topic of conversation regarding building community or anything outside of it?
On building community, I do want to say before I ask the question, don't be afraid to hit these streets. Don't be afraid to go outside and actually talk to people. You out here talking to people, which I love to see. Don't be afraid to talk to people. People be scary for no reason. Go talk to people. Anyway.
No, that was a good PSA.
Yes. So were you born and raised in Atlanta?
So I was born on the way to Atlanta.
Wow.
Yeah. My mom went to South Carolina State University, and she was born, raised, Grady baby, and she was coming from school and coming back to Atlanta for her baby shower. And she had like this doctor's appointment, and she went in thinking, oh, we just doing a check-in. They said, oh, nah, baby, you gonna have to stay here. She said, what? So I was born in Orangeburg, South Carolina, and I was raised here in the A.
Beautiful. That's a beautiful story.
Thank you.
Your so you're like, you have a house, you have some land. What have you noticed from your land over the last year? Of like, what are the seasons like on your land? What's the vibe? What is stuck out to you about your environment?
Oh, that's a great question. My grandma's house is the one that comes to mind immediately. Like, kind of what you were saying earlier about having your family's house be a safe space for others. I feel like my grandma's house has been like, if something going bad in my life, I can go to XYZ house and I can either get me a good meal, have me somewhere to stay for a while until I get back on my feet, or I get back on the road and need to do something. So watching or, being in the atmosphere of that land and real estate over the years, it's just, honestly, I've just noticed how the greenery complements the entirety of the property. Okay. Like what you were saying in versus spring and the fall. The grass pretty much stays full throughout all seasons, but of course in the fall it may not grow as much, or it may not. It may have developed like a few brown patches, but overall, it's very like welcoming to like harvesting. My grandma, she's a gardener, so she's like planted her own flowers, trees.
Come on, Grandma.
So it's like when she has the time to like be intentional in that, it literally like maintains itself and kind of feeds back into it, as you were saying earlier. But that's one of the main things I've noticed. Like it's literally not necessarily a structure of the house, but the things around it. If it weren't on that land, I don't know if the house sitting on it would be as foundationally sound, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's like they go together.
Mm-hmm.
They're not something you can like separate and just take the house and pop it somewhere else. Like it's the just as much as your grandma has cultivated the space for your family and her community there, the land is being cultivated in that same way. They're part of that as well.
Yeah,
That's
facts. Like
beautiful.
you can still see the spaces where you're like, okay, that needs more work, that needs more work. But like overall, it's completely in alignment with that.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I'm trying to get it to where like, cause my grandma, she's a person that loves like gardening and things of that sort in the same ways that you do as well. And I've been trying to get her to like, write down the plans that you want to see on the improvements of the land. Like, even if you don't think you can do it, like still write it down. Like put it out there so that later on, shoot, I can pick it up and we can get some of these things done. Like it's definitely an opportunity. So that's I guess one thing that I'm trying to accomplish in my lifetime is to be able to cultivate that land appropriately so that it's more welcoming.
Yeah. Sure, we should bring a black land bus by get some work done.
Hey, let's do
Get some work
it.
done. That's beautiful. And then I do want to ask too, if you like, so this is season 3 of Philosophy Chillin'?
Yeah, it is. It's crazy work. I swear to God. Every time somebody asks me about that, I literally thought when I started this, I was like, yo, I'm finna be talking to myself and this camera for a good couple episodes.
LOL.
But what was your question?
My question was gonna be, no, you good. I love the joy. The joy is like the best part. As you've been doing this and talking to people, what and like you pick the topics and you talk to these people, like what I guess my question is about like the different industries and work that people do in the wide range. I'm wondering like if there's like common thread, like despite people's industries or despite what individual work people are doing that you seem to like see within the people who you have around you.
Oh, well, thank you for asking that question. I think you've been one of the first, honestly, to ask that in that way. And I say that to say, essentially, the different silos and industries that people are in is kind of like the icing on the cake for me. This platform was specifically generated to be a collective of diverse ideologies. And I think that, not I think, but that is the stream that keeps everyone aligned in regards to what community this platform is building. Because even if I get somebody that I don't even like completely 100% mentally, spiritually agree with, I would still invite them here because this space is literally meant to be a way in which we can find a common level of understanding, because I see the passion in everybody I meet. Kind of like what you were saying earlier about being able to identify gifts and not only just knowing your gifts and being able to provide that as a contribution, but seeing somebody else's and, giving them their affirmation like, hey, keep doing it.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much it. Like out of all the work that you're doing, I don't see enough awareness being brought to it. So I'm just like, okay, whatever you're doing, I want to be a aid to make that larger in a way. And outside of just your ideology, like all of those aspects kind of shine a beacon light to me in a way to where it's like, okay, I can have a conversation with this person. Like because of their drive and passion that I can see clearly through what they do, whatever avenue the conversation takes, I know that there's something I can pull out of you or out of that moment in general. So I think that answers your question, but let me know.
You answered it, and then you went beyond, which was very beautiful, and I thank you for that.
Thank you. Any more questions?
Not for the camera.
That's real. And I'm glad you said that, because it's about time for y'all to go. But before we leave, can you reintroduce yourself and the highlights or projects that you would like people to read up on, and when they get connected with you and see, your profile too?
Yeah, for sure. What's up, y'all? I am Thayu Lou Hamer, after the honorable ancestor Fannie Lou Hamer. She was a civil rights activist and a land worker over Mississippi and beyond Mississippi. She was actually in the halls of the U.S. Congress yelling at those crazy people up there. Yeah, so I am a community architect, a community organizer, a land healer, a star reader, a herbalist, a root worker, a Black person in America, a Black person who's gonna be outside of America soon.
Facts.
I'm a travel. The Black Land Bus is a large project that we're working on right now, which can pull up on you. We're going to be traveling over the entire Deep South and building different infrastructures for Black farmers and indigenous land projects. You can follow us on the Black Land Bus on Substack. On Substack, you can follow us at Black Land Bus on Substack. We're not on Instagram, not on Twitter. We're getting off those apps. Those people are crazy. The people who run those apps are insane. So we're getting off those. So Substack at Black Land Bus. There's also on Instagram, if you are still shackled. there's the building Kujichagulia is where the community-led design against Cop City lives. That's building, then Kujichagulia, Kujichagulia, and Kujichagulia is the right of a people to choose for ourselves, speak for ourselves, create for ourselves, and name ourselves. That's what we're building. That's on Instagram. And then entirely sidebar, entire sidebar for those who are trying to integrate themselves with the world that we exist in, especially if you are in the forested lands on the side of the Mississippi. Then there's a SoundCloud page called Feet on Ground, Eyes on Stars. That there's some deep integrating into the environment and spiritual work being done there. If you're willing to take off your shoes and put your feet on the ground and your eyes on the stars. Ooh. So thank y'all.
I like that. Okay. So with that being said, I don't know if you got shoes on right now, but I'm about to look into that a little bit further, because I would like to put my feet on the ground and eyes to the stars. So it's been me, Download to Connect, and once again, your name?
Thayu Lou Hamer, Just said thank y'all for listening.
Right. We out of here. Peace. Huge thank you if you listened to the episode this far. I wanted to come back in and talk about something that we didn't really get to in the beginning of the episode, which was giving a huge thank you to the Sage Foundations for allowing us to utilize their studio space. It was an amazing opportunity, and I can't wait for the next one. With that being said, I also wanted to give a big thank you to my guest and co-host. They were amazing, and I just wanted to say I apologize if I utilized the wrong pronouns. I'm still learning, and I was just excited about the conversation that it kind of slipped out. But I wanted to say huge thank you to them. Their pronouns are something that I try to be intentional towards in regards to addressing somebody appropriately. So I just wanted to come in here and say that was an accident if you hear it from me. So make sure that you're doing it intentionally as well. So, peace.